What a hit!
How's it guys, this is Davey FPL and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through the ultimate guide to the upcoming double game week 7. So yes, the first double game week of the season, not the biggest kind of double in the world, only Luton and Burnley having that double game week. So I'll be discussing if you actually need any of their assets. I'll still be going over the usual ultimate guide topics though. We'll be taking a look at the stats review, the Campsey debate right at the end of the video, and between that we're going to talk about Ben Chilwell, Sterling as well as Saka. So we haven't done one of these in a while, so this ultimate guide is going to be a pretty good one. So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going over the stats review as we always do in these ultimate guides, the first stats I want to talk about are going to be the attacking stats, and I'll be going over the top 6 and bottom 6 teams. So let's get straight into it. On the left hand side, I'll be going over the XG non-penalty. Please remember, always use the non-penalty variant when I talk about teams, as this gives us a better indication of how attacking these sides are. So on the left hand side, you guys can see that Liverpool currently top of the XG non-penalty out of every team over the opening 6 game weeks. So if you guys are wildcarding at the current moment, looking to bring in a Mo Salah, definitely a great asset to look at, but who are you guys replacing in your midfield? Following up from them are going to be Man City, Spurs, Brighton, Everton, and then finally Chelsea. And one team isn't like the others. Yes, Everton, a little bit of surprise entry here in terms of the top 6 sides, but just shows you how bad they've been at converting those chances. Likewise, in terms of Chelsea, I would know I own Nicholas Jackson till game week 5. I still own Raheem Sterling at the current moment. So seeing these attacking stats just brings a tear to my eye almost. But at least the replacements are probably going to be from Spurs, Heung-min Son, James Maddison, the third best attack at the current moment. And they're looking like a great team. Then the ever-present Brighton are always going to be just a great attacking side under De Zerbi. If you guys are looking at Matoma from game week 10 onwards, he's a great selection. But with the good, we're going to go over the bad, so let's go over the bottom 6 teams. Now please, if you guys do have defenders facing these sides, the chance of a clean sheet should be good, and they could even haul. So these bottom 6 teams are pretty kind of predictable. It's Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Burnley, Luton, Fulham, and then finally Wolves. So kind of newly promoted sides, as well as promoted sides from last season. So yet again, as mentioned, if your defenders are facing these sides, definitely play them, as the chance of a clean sheet should be pretty strong. But now let's go over to the defensive numbers. I'll be going over expected clean sheets. Forgot to mention that all these stats are from Fantasy Football Fix. You guys can go check them out if you guys want to. And they come up with this expected clean sheet metric. So what this basically tells you is per game, what are the chances of a team keeping a clean sheet. For example, in terms of the top 6 sides, Man City have a 0.45 clean sheet per game. That's kind of derived from the XG conceded, all that good stuff. It's a very kind of nice defensive metric as a whole. So the top 6 defensive teams, Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, Crystal Palace, and finally Liverpool. And once again, Chelsea popping up here. I just wish Chilwell was actually starting in that team. Otherwise, Man City defense continues to be quite elusive, putting up great numbers, but quite hard to predict who's going to start. And that's why Newcastle is so kind of reliable. Now, if you guys are looking to get rid of your Arsenal defenders, I did it last week. Just heed caution, as they're putting up some good numbers. But I think all focus right now will be on Newcastle, the third best kind of defense in the Prem at the moment, according to XG conceded. And as I said, they're just kind of always going to be the same back four, so they're super reliable in those FPL teams. Then nice to see that Crystal Palace are going to be I do own Johnson at the current moment, just holding thumbs that he doesn't kind of get replaced by Dean Henderson, as they're putting up some good defensive numbers as well. The final team I've just kind of been mentioning throughout these previous videos, I wouldn't target a Liverpool defender, but they're popping up here as the 6th best defense in the Prem at the moment. And they have some great fixtures coming up. Now Trent has returned to training this week. He might be too expensive for your liking, but if you guys want to go for a cheaper option. But I want to see Liverpool keep some clean sheets first. Then let's go over the bottom 6 teams in terms of defensive numbers. Now target these teams for your attackers. If they're facing these sides, the chance of a haul is pretty strong. And you can almost base Campsey around this. So you guys know the number 1 team or the worst team at the moment is Sheffield United. Just conceded 8 to Newcastle. Now the XG for that game was around 4 or 5. But that was quite a big dent in their XG stats. Now the next team, Wolves, just be cautious. We have Man City facing Wolves. If you guys aren't going to captain Erling Haaland this week, just be reminded of these defensive numbers, that Wolves defense has not been great this Premier League season. We have Arsenal taking on Bournemouth this week as well. It's a pity that Saka might be a doubt for that fixture, as that could have been a great one on paper. Then West Ham coming up here, but they have faced Man City, and just remember that Erling Haaland missed all those big chances against them, so that would have brought their expected clean sheets metric down quite a bit. Other than that though, Luton and Fulham kind of end off our list, which are pretty predictable. But as mentioned previously, target these teams for your attackers to get hauls. Now I've just chosen these 2 stats from an attacking and defensive point of view, but so many stats can be made, and we are approaching quite a nice game week metric, as most teams have played 6 game weeks. So some quite interesting insights can be gauged from these stats. Let me know what your guys' thoughts in the comments down below are. And what teams are you guys targeting from an attacking and defensive point of view? Now I just want to quickly touch on the fact that this is going to be a double game week 7. As mentioned, Luton and Burnley have a double game week, and Luton are the ones to target with the better fixture. So both these two teams face each other. It's going to be a home game against Burnley in the second fixture, but Luton do face Everton away in the first one. Burnley do face Newcastle away, which is going to be a tougher game. I honestly think that Newcastle could score a few, probably keep a clean sheet. But out of these two teams, I can't really recommend anyone. The only one I would probably recommend is going to be Morris, as you guys know, the striker for Luton at the moment. But we'll touch on him a little bit later on in this video. But if there are any other assets that you guys are looking at, maybe a Kabore at 4.0 million, are you guys playing him this week, or are you going for some more reliable options, as I can't see Luton keeping too many clean sheets. I mean, that first game might be good, but we just saw Everton are one of the best attacks in terms of XG in the game, and that is an away game for Luton. So besides Morris, not too many options I can recommend, but as I said in the comments down below, who are you guys bringing in? Then another quick announcement, also there are going to be midweek fixtures. As I'm recording this video, it's going to be before the Tuesday games, and then when you guys are watching this video, we do have the Wednesday games coming up. Now this will be the next round of the League Cup competition. I still believe that most teams will probably play kind of second string squads, but there might be some injuries that are picked up in these fixtures. My eyes will heavily be on that Chelsea game. They are facing quite a strong opposition. I want to see what that lineup is going to be like without Gusto, as I might want to keep my Chelsea assets for Fulham and Burnley. But other than that, a lot of Prem teams actually facing on Tuesday and Wednesday, so just watch out for team selections and injuries. But now heading into the actual talking points for the upcoming double game week 7. The first one's going to be about Ben Chilwell. I know what you guys are thinking, who owns Ben Chilwell at the current moment? Well, I own him personally, so I thought there might be those of you out there that do as well. So yes, he's probably a sell at the end of the day, but I do believe with Fulham and Burnley coming up next, you guys would have just seen that those two teams aren't the best from an attacking point of view, and Chelsea are putting up good defensive numbers. So Ben Chilwell might be a keep for the next 2 game weeks if he was guaranteed to start, but will he actually start game week 7? I don't exactly know. Now the quote I want to go over is a quote that was released on Tuesday. It was from Pochettino's press conference. He said, "I'm so happy with Levi Colwill in the way he's playing at left back, and he's proving very good balance. I think Ben Chilwell is going to play, and I think tomorrow he is going to play." So what he's referring to there is that he will be playing in the League Cup game probably, but what I kind of read from this quote is that currently Colwill's the first choice left back. So that's why I mentioned all my eyes are going to be on that Chelsea lineup, because if Colwill's rested and Ben Chilwell plays, it's almost a guarantee that he'll be benched for game week 7. Now I might be reading too much into this, so you guys can drop your comments down below. What do you guys think that Pochettino meant by this quote? And can you see Chilwell starting in game week 7? Now let's just say that he puts up a massive performance in the League Cup game, then he might have a chance of starting game week 7, but right now the chances aren't looking so good. Now if you guys are looking for replacements, there's a number 1 team to go for. Already spoke about them. It's those Newcastle assets. Kieran Trippier is the best replacement if you guys can afford him. Otherwise Fabian Schär, Botman or Dan Burn, also quite reliable. Other than that, you can go for a Matty Cash from Aston Villa. The fixtures shortly look pretty decent, and he's also getting quite forward. But yes, don't roast me in the comments too much, because I do still own Ben Chilwell. Those upcoming fixtures for Chelsea just look too good. Now the next big talking point is going to be about Bukayo Saka, a more relatable talking point though. A lot of us do own the Arsenal midfielder, and Arteta had this to say on him today. He has not been able to participate in training since the derby. It's a possibility that he's unavailable for the Bournemouth game. So as you guys know, Arsenal faced Bournemouth in game week 7, a massive clash for them. Could have been a massive haul if he was going to start this game. So this is quite disappointing. Now what I would wait for is for future kind of news in the press conference coming up on Thursday or Friday. If he's going to return to training on Wednesday, Thursday or Friday, I think he should be fine for the weekend, but just want to keep you guys eyes on. Now would I take Bukayo Saka out before Bournemouth away in game week 7 if he was confirmed to be missing? I don't exactly know. There's one side of me that's saying that he faces Man City next game week. He was a transfer out anyways next game week for myself in my plans, so I can just bring in Son or Maddison in a game week earlier. So I think if Saka was confirmed to be missing the Bournemouth game, I probably would move quite early on him. I don't have the bench to cover him at the current moment, and therefore let's look at some replacements. So if you guys are looking to replace Bukayo Saka, there are a few replacements I'll go over. I'm going to actually go over 3 options that I think are super reliable, and I'm very tempted to bring all 3 of them in. Now if you guys are looking for the number 1 replacement for Bukayo Saka at the moment, I definitely would go for Raheem Sterling. He has an expected points of 5.33 per 90 minutes. But obviously I'm just joking. So in terms of Sterling, please don't get him in. I'm just kind of giving myself some comedic relief about owning the Chelsea midfielder. Let's go over some real replacements. So the number 1 replacement at the moment that I would look to bring in is Heung-min Son from Spurs. He has an expected FPL points of 6.7 per game, which ranks amongst the best for the midfielders. Now because he is quite expensive, if you guys already own Son, you can go for a cheap alternative, and that's James Maddison at 5.87. Now please just watch out for James Maddison. He had a scan on his knee earlier in the week. I expect him to be fine for game week 7, but there is always a risk. But the Spurs manager is usually quite transparent in his press conferences. So these two replacements, I definitely look at them. If you guys own Son, go for Maddison. If you own Maddison, go for Son. But there is a cheap alternative that might also draw your attention. That player is going to be someone on our wildcard drafts. It's going to be Diaby from Aston Villa. He has expected points of 5.86, which is quite close to James Maddison. Now in my opinion, the number one Aston Villa attacker to get at the current moment, looks electric, can score against anyone, and his conversion rate is pretty decent. So out of these three, I think you guys can find your Saka replacement quite easily. There are a few other options. Unfortunately, someone like a Matoma has a tough next 3 fixtures, otherwise he'd be on my radar. So either go for Aston Villa, either go for Spurs. Both have great fixtures coming up. I just personally prefer the Spurs attack. In the comments down below, let me know who your replacement is for Saka if he's going to be confirmed out. I'm not saying that you guys have to take him out. If you guys want to bench him, 100% fine. But I'll probably take him out because my bench isn't too great. Now the last talking point to go over is me all about Kamsi, and this week I'm going to shake things up from the format. So you guys know what I usually do, I go over my 3 favorite options. Well this week I think it's down to 2. Those 2 options are going to be Erling Haaland or Morris from Luton. Who would have thought that we'd be comparing these 2 players in terms of football? I guess that's the beauty of FPL. Now obviously it's not as cut and dry as Erling Haaland versus Morris, it's Haaland versus 2 fixtures of Morris, as here's the double game week. Now you guys would have seen that the defensive form of Wolves at the current moment isn't too great, but Morris also has Everton and Burnley. Both those 2 sides aren't the best defense at the current moment as well, but Luton's attack is far less superior to Man City's. So on a fixture basis, I guess you kind of have to give it to the double game week. He has 2 good games. I would take both those games if I was to captain, but the tough part about it is that Erling Haaland has a pretty decent one as well. But double game week, as I said, let's give it to Morris in terms of the fixtures. Now let's go over the stats. So in terms of the stats comparison, it isn't super fair as Erling Haaland is a just much better striker. So let's see if the stats actually agree with that. So one thing to note is that Morris has played less minutes than Erling Haaland. He's played about 100 minutes less or 1 game, but just remember that Luton did have that blank. So all you guys need to know is that both these 2 options are pretty nailed. Both these options are played basically maximum amount of minutes. Just a reminder that Luton had the blank. So because of that blank fixture, I've compared these stats according to per 90 minutes. You're going to see the XG of Erling Haaland is 1.34 compared to Morris's 0.5. Now both these 2 are penalty takers, but if you want to see kind of the XG non-penalty, it's 1.08 compared to 0.16, which just shows you the kind of increased attacking threat of Erling Haaland. If you think that maybe Morris is more of an assister, it's not the case, 0.17 compared to 0.07, so Erling Haaland absolutely destroys him on the stats. But here's where things get slightly interesting. In terms of expected FPL points, you guys can see that Erling Haaland is projected to score 8.93 per game, whereas Morris has been expected to score 5.24. So if you guys do some simple math there, if Erling Haaland has 1 game versus Morris who has 2 games, you can double Morris's expected points, and that gives you around 10. So yes, if you guys go on expected points, Morris is going to outperform Erling Haaland in terms of expected FPL points, which is quite an interesting insight. Now it might be quite close, it's kind of 9 versus 10, but if you are backing the stats, Morris is the better captain. Now what would I do if I own these 2? I probably would still go with Erling Haaland. That's just kind of my gut feeling. I think that Erling Haaland plays for the better team. Maybe if he had a terrible fixture then I wouldn't go for him, but Wolves away isn't too bad. But as I said, if you guys are going to be backing the stats, maybe you want to go for a more maverick option, then Morris is the one to go for, but I'm probably going to stick with Erling Haaland. Now also what I want to add is that if you guys are going to spend a transfer bringing Morris in, I might just rather bank it. I might make that move somewhere elsewhere if it's going to be Saka out, that sort of thing. As because it's quite close between these 2, I just keep Erling Haaland, captain him, and then use the transfer elsewhere. But on a wildcard, as mentioned, I'd probably have Morris in my team. I still would captain Erling Haaland, but I can understand if you guys want to go for the Luton man. In the comments down below, are there any of you that are going for the Morris captain, or are you guys going for more differential captains, or do you think it's between these 2? I still believe the Erling Haaland effective ownership will be pretty high, as Morris is quite a differential at the moment. But as I said, let me know in the comments down below who's your captain for the upcoming double game week 7. Now this has been all the talking points in this ultimate guide for double game week 7, but if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments down below or my Discord server. You'll find that link in the description. But this is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. See you guys for the team selection tomorrow. Otherwise, enjoy the League Cup games coming up tonight. But I'm signing off. It's been Davey FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.